what I want to talk to you about now is adjusting sound levels inside of Adobe Premiere Pro 5.5. The way you edit sound inside of Premiere, to be honest, hasn't really changed through most of the variations of Premiere Pro, so pretty much everything I show you now will be exactly the same for previous versions. We do have some information about this on our tutorial, but a few people have asked me for a bit more than is covered in the tutorial, hence doing these little add-ons. So I've got a small scene here, which is just a conversation between a couple of people. That's me. And what I want to do is put a bit of music on and tweak the sound levels slightly. Just quickly, for a start, the general conversation
How easy is it to edit?
is all over one side because it was filmed with a directional microphone and a camera, so I need to sort that out, and the simplest way of doing that is to go over to the list of effects, find an effect called fill left, which takes whatever's on the left hand channel and makes it fill on both, and dump it onto all of the clips. So I've selected all the clips, dumped that on there, and that's sorted out the
It's pretty easy to edit the stuff these days.
fact that it's all on one side. Anyway, what I really wanted to talk about was not effects like fill left and fill right and things like that. I really wanted to talk about the little yellow line, rubber band, which is underneath the clip. Now you notice there I've got a little yellow line on the audio. There is also a little yellow line on the video. Obviously on the video it doesn't actually relate to the sound volume. In fact, what it really relates to is whatever is written in this little box here. That is a line that will show you keyframes and changes to do with, on the video front, the opacity, on the audio front, the level. If I click on that, there's other things I could possibly fiddle with. Now the other things will be whatever filters you've added to the clip. So in effect, these clips have only got what they started life with. In this case, this one's got opacity, which is transparency, which is what that line defaults to. Motion, so it's all the standard up, left, down, right and so on, and time remapping. Now if I chose to show position there, this yellow line now represents the position of the clip. Make a bit more sense when we go into the audio. But basically that's what the yellow line means. It is actually a representation of whatever that thing is. So in my case I could choose a fill left, and whatever options there are on a fill left, that now represents the fill left. It doesn't represent the level. So what I want to do is I want to take that and maybe ramp it up a bit. Put a fade on it. I mean, looking at this clip here, it starts off with a bit of general sound as the guy walks in, and then cuts to the close-up mic. The bit of general sound happens to be a bit of surround sound. So if I open it up and drag it out a bit, you can see there, let's just move that up a bit more, that it's actually a surround sound clip which has got a left, right, back right, centre and subwoofer. Because that particular camera happened to do surround sound. That's why it's on a different audio track to that one. You can have surround sound clips, you can have stereo, you can have mono clips, but they can't go on the same tracks. You have to have different tracks for different types of clip. So, start off with a bit of general background noise, and then I pop into the other one. I like this to start with a fade in on the sound. Now, you could very easily get a fade in on the sound by coming over to the list of audio transitions, choosing a crossfade, and dropping it on the start. And that has created a fade in on the sound. And that works, and frankly that's the quickest way of fading the sound up and fading the sound down. It's even quicker if you can remember the keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to select it and delete. Make sure my audio track is selected, because keyboard shortcuts only work if the track is actually lit up. Stick the cursor pretty near the start, and I'm going to do Control-Shift-D, and that automatically puts on a 1 second crossfade. So that's even quicker than grabbing the thing and dropping it. Control-Shift-D. And that's how I fade stuff up and fade stuff down 99% of the time, and I don't use the rubber bands for it. Now I could use the rubber bands instead. So I'm coming across to this clip here, and I'm going to want it to start off at nothing, and then after about a second I want it to have faded into there, which is the middle level, the actual natural level of the sound. So you think, okay, go and grab the thing and start dragging. You'll notice when I actually grab the yellow line, it doesn't put any points on or put a ramp in. It literally takes the whole yellow line up or the whole yellow line down. And you can see the figures I'm getting there. That's upping the volume by 6 decibels. That's decreasing it by -infinity, so it's completely quiet. In the middle is where it started. So that's increasing the volume, that's decreasing the volume. And in fact, I find that's a very simple way of just going to a clip and changing the volume on it. Simpler than anything else, just grab hold of the yellow line and drag. But I didn't want to do that. I want to change this line so it ramps up. I want a point at the start and another point here, and it ramps up. The easiest way to do that is simply to hold down on the control key. Put the mouse over the yellow line. You'll notice that when I hold down on the control key, the cursor changes from having that sort of up and down thing to having a plus sign. The plus sign means it's going to add a point. And I want to click and add a point there. I want to go back to the start, click and add another point there. So I've now got 2 points. They're both at the same level, so I haven't made any difference whatsoever, but I have now got 2 points. Now what I want to do is to take that point at the start and drag it downwards. I'm not holding any keyboard shortcuts now, I'm just grabbing hold of the thing. I only had to hold on the control to put a point in. But apart from that, bam. That has created a fade. It's done exactly the same as using the audio transition. It's just a different way of doing it. Now whatever I do here is reflected in the effects control window. Let's go up to the effects control window for the clip. You can see here this is the effects which are on this particular clip. So top half's the effects that are on the video, the bottom half is the effects that are on the audio, and there's only the one, it's a volume. Every audio clip starts off with volume, you don't have to add it. And you can see that the points that I've put on the timeline are these 2 points in the volume. See there's a little triangle there. Whenever there's a triangle inside of Premiere, that means something to open. So open it up and you can see then I've got a couple of parameters here. And this one is volume and there's 2 dots on volume. These are the keyframes. Now I'm going to get rid of them and start from nothing. And instead of coming down here and putting on a point by holding down on the control and click, I'm going to come over here and click that little button. That adds in a keyframe. Then go back to the start, and I'm going to go to these numbers here, which is currently at 0 dB, which means no change at all from the original. And I'm going to drag it downwards until I get to as low as it goes. Changing a number automatically puts a point in. So I didn't have to click that to add another point, it just automatically put a point in. And that means I've now got a point at the start, a point about a second in, and the sound will go from minus 285 to normal. And in fact on the timeline it's done exactly the same as it's done before. It's put in a ramp, nothing to normal volume. Those 2 things did exactly the same. To put a ramp in, I can either come to the line here, control click and then drag, or I can come up here and I can change numbers. Doesn't matter which, they're both the same thing. Now the rest of this works pretty well, to be perfectly honest. At the end, I just like it to fade out. So I'm going to go to the very end, zoom in a bit, open up the track, go to the little yellow line, control, click point, control, click point, drag point downwards. That's done a fade out. Now I'm pretty zoomed in there, so in fact between here and here, we're only talking, see that's at 38.46, that's at 39.10, only about half a second. I wish that was a bit longer. I think it's a bit of a slow thing for a fade out, so I wish it was a bit longer. Very simple, just grab hold of the point and drag it. Move it where you feel like you can move it up, you can move it down, you can move it left, you can move it right. I really want that point there to be at 0, and I'm struggling. Oh, I managed to hit it finally. So it's a very good case where instead of dragging it here and hoping to get the right number, maybe I should come up to the effects control window, select that, which is that point there, and come and type 0, as opposed to trying to drag it up and down. Both achieve the same thing. But yeah, now I've got a longer fade out. Like I said, I would not use these points for fading in and fading out. I'd just put on a crossfade. I could go to the end there, Control, Shift, D, wham, crossfade. The nice thing about a crossfade is it defaults to a second. The default length is up in the Preferences, where it says here, default audio transition 1 second. Whereas when I was dragging these points around, I had to guess where 1 second is, and I got it completely wrong. Where I would use the points though is when I'm mixing audio together.